Hey guys, this is Dennis, the founder of Think Hero.
And I'm David Griffin, your resident comic book and video game guru.
And this is our review of The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 15.
The penultimate episode called Us.
Okay, so I actually like this episode. It wasn't as good as last week's shocking, controversial episode with Carol and the kids. But I did enjoy this one, I think, because stuff actually happened. And I'm also... because I'm invested in the Glenn and Maggie relationship, I was happy to see that come to a resolution.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I like the parts with Daryl and Joe with the hunters, whatever we want to call those guys, with the whole thing about claiming, claim, and his I ain't claiming nothing, all that. I love that whole group is just really interesting to me right now. Even though I said last week I'm kind of on my way out with the show, but I can still find things that I like about the show, and I definitely like Daryl and the group with the hunters with Joe as their leader.
Okay. Yeah, and then with Joe, and then there's that guy Len, who
when they whooped,
he
gave the whooping to. He lied
because he planted a
rabbit.
The rabbit.
Yeah.
So do you think that Joe actually saw him plant it, or he just knew he was lying, so he said that he saw him plant it?
Yeah, I think he sees something in Daryl that he likes. So, I mean, Daryl, he's like those guys, but he kind of stands out a little bit because he has softened his heart a little bit. I love the conversations that Joe kept saying. He kept saying guys like us, hard men who have had to survive our whole lives, probably had rough childhoods, and that's all we've done. We just survive, we hunt, we know what to do. This is how the world just makes sense like this. Guys that are just doing great in this kind of environment. I think Daryl has those elements in him, but he found love. He found a family in Rick and everybody else, and so I don't think he just seems different. He's smarter than the rest of those guys, and I think Joe sees that in him, for better or for worse.
What's up with the claiming stuff? I mean,
claim. I got
claim.
I mean, it's like calling shotgun.
Exactly.
I got shotgun. It's like, really? It's like this is what men do, make decisions. I'm like, they say it's like calling shotgun. It's like
exactly.
What kids do. Yeah.
Because he's like, they got all these rules,
right.
and that's like one of the main rules, and like I can see that turning to a big problem.
If you lie, you get a beating. And if you do this, you get a beat. But the guy lied, but he got an arrow through the eye.
Well, he died.
He got
got killed. He didn't get beaten.
Dang,
he died.
That's a little bit more than a beating. Those guys are rough. And Daryl I don't think Daryl likes these guys necessarily. I think he's just kind of got nothing else to do, and he's just like, I might as well just tag along with these guys. I got nothing else to do.
Yeah, in the very end, we find out they're actually tracking Rick.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was such a big deal for them. I mean, I figured, okay, one of their guys got killed.
Yeah, in the house. Yeah, in that house.
I didn't know they were that loyal to that guy that they were going to go track down Rick.
You actually see them walk over the candy bar wrappers and all that. Because at first when I saw that scene with Rick and Michonne, I'm like, well, that scene was kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's very short.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it shows, Carl smiling and Michonne having a good time, and Rick even shows a smile. They had like a moment of happiness in their awful world, but then at the end, it does kind of come around, and you see that candy bar wrapper, and you're like, oh, they are tracking them.
I actually like that scene with Michonne and Carl and Rick, because Michonne is a character I think that we've been critical of this season, but I think one of the highlights of this season so far has been Michonne's character, because we've seen a different side to her. She isn't just the angry, pouty, She
smiles.
Yeah, she smiles, and also we learn about her backstory.
Yeah.
Remember the episodes with the backstory about her family and her child?
Right.
And so this relationship that she now has with Carl, I think it shows a better light of her. Something different and just not like a one-dimensional thing.
No, I think they've done a great job this season with Michonne. Of all the characters, of all the characters, she's probably the one I've enjoyed the most this season. I think maybe Carol too. Carol's had some great stories too. Carol and Michonne are probably my two favorite characters this season. Just the way they fleshed the characters out. Rick, he's so down and just out of it, and he was hurt a lot of the time. So Rick just hasn't been. He's not that. He's supposed to be the center of the group. But I think because the cast is just so big and it's a talented cast, I think they've just spread the load to other characters, and I think
also I think the showrunners and the writers and the studio and all that, they didn't expect that Daryl was going to become the fan favorite.
Yeah,
Daryl is the number one amongst all the fans, including myself.
Right.
And so they didn't expect that, and so now they had to rearrange kind of the storylines.
And I like how even speaking of Daryl, when the guy who was killed from the hunting group, I liked when they were in the woods and he got the rabbit and he was like, man, it look like you got some girl giving you some trouble. and then he went and said, is it one of them young ones? And then he saw him, because granted, we know, you guys corrected me, the actress is 28 years old, but in the story. I doubt she's even 18 in the story, anyway. So it is funny, like, isn't that one of them young ones? You see Daryl get really defensive about that. And because I wonder if he has hope of finding her. It seems like he's just kind of tagging along with these guys, but he's not looking for her while he's tagging along. So I wonder what his thought process is.
Don't know, but I think he's hoping to eventually find some of the other people from the original group.
Right.
And that's why at the end, also besides the candy wrapper, they see the sign for Terminus.
Yep.
And Joe says, "Oh yeah, that's a bunch of BS."
Right.
Because like, who's gonna like be so like giving in this type of world? All right, so now we get to Glenn's group.
Yeah.
And he's reuniting with Maggie.
Fast reuniting with Maggie.
Yeah, well, that part wasn't so bad. It was the fact that Maggie's group had somehow joined with Abraham's group and then came together to save Glenn and Tara.
Right, we just have that clip of them on the railroad tracks of Abraham's group, and I'm looking at something, and then all of a sudden, like, Maggie shows up, and then they're all together, and then it cuts, and then like they're by the fire or something at night, and everybody's together, like Bob's back, everybody's just together, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it works, but it was quick. It's kind of a fast resolution.
I'm wondering if they cut out some scenes like they did in that one episode where Maggie had been lying down on the ground and just popped up.
Right.
And it just was really awkward. So I'm wondering if that happened in this episode as well. Like, if we watch the Blu-rays behind the scenes, deleted scenes, that we'll see like, oh, they actually did meet up. And because that group of people has never seen Maggie before.
Right, yeah,
in their group.
Yeah, right, exactly. They don't know who she is.
They would at least at first think that they're threats, How did they, suddenly join forces?
Right, yeah, it just happened all of a sudden. But I mean, it was nice to, like you were saying, it's been nice to see, Glenn and Maggie get back together.
Yeah, because I'm invested in their relationships. It's one of the relationships that I really like on the show. I liked in the beginning of the episode when Glenn sees Maggie's writing that they're going to Terminus.
Right.
Like, I really like that part, and he just starts running.
Yeah, he just sprints, he's booking, he's gone, yeah.
But then eventually they kind of broke off that group with Glenn and Abraham. They reconnected pretty quickly after that.
it was fast, but I mean, it was a nice little, this show's become a lot about set pieces. Each week has a big set piece. This big set piece was the tunnel. And Glenn going through the tunnel and seeing all it's almost like a video game or a maze. It's like, how are we going to get from point A to point B? How many zombies can we kill? And, I mean, they do a good job of doing terrifying moments and, gruesome action sequences. They do a good job on the show with that,
One question I have is, what happened to that one girl's, like, booty shorts? Like, it seemed
got
to
rid of the
disappear.
Daisy Dukes. Yeah.
She was wearing them when they first met her, and then now she's wearing regular pants or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, had the little, like, stomach showing and all that. Now she's all, like, conservative, all, like, buttoned up and everything. And then, of course, it's funny, Abraham noticing that Tara was looking at her, because she's attracted to her. And he's like, hey, I ain't mad at you. Like, look, she's hot, and Eugene looks at her all the time. So it was fun. It was some nice moments.
I liked Eugene's dialogue. He was pretty funny in this episode. The one thing that does bother me, and it's like a conceit of the show, it's like, why would he know this big secret of how the zombie apocalypse started and not tell anyone?
Right.
What happens if he dies?
Right, yeah.
So now he doesn't know. No one will know, and no one can find a cure, and he's the only one, but he can't tell anyone.
No, exactly.
That's like totally just like, oh, we're just doing that because it's a show.
Right, you got it. I mean, you can't just put him in armor and expect him to be safe. He's got to tell somebody, but he's just too smart. Maybe he's just too smart. No one will understand what he's talking about anyway.
And then they finally arrive at Terminus,
right,
which we can suspect is not. I haven't read the comic books past the prison, so I don't know, but I'm just guessing because it just seems too good to be true. They alluded to that with Joe and Daryl, and it's just, when you get there, it's weird. The Mary lady that's there.
Cooking some meat,
Yeah, offering up food, and they like have water.
But it's too quiet.
Yeah, it's really
too
empty.
Quiet. Yeah, there's like nobody there, at least that we've seen yet. So it'll be interesting, because I mean, this episode 2 for the 4th week in a row now has not focused much on on Rick, Carl, and Michonne. We got to see Carl and Michonne, but for a brief moment. It looks like next week from the preview, we're going to see a lot more Carl and Michonne and Rick. Yeah, we're gonna see what goes down because we haven't seen a lot of them in the last 4
We
weeks.
also haven't seen Tyrese and
Not
Carol.
very much, no,
I mean, we saw him last episode, in the
Right.
big, shocking,
Right.
controversial episode, but we didn't see him this episode.
It's been a lot of Daryl, this last month or so.
Yeah. All right, guys, so that's what we thought of the episode. You can post your comments below on the website, thinkhero.com, or on our YouTube channel, Think Hero Pro. Make sure to subscribe to that.
Or you can check us out on Twitter. Talk to Dennis and I about the penultimate episode, or please chat with us about the finale. What are your predictions? What are you looking forward to seeing? What's going to happen, until, next year, or I should say later this year, until season 5. We're at Think Hero. I'm at Griffin DE.
And we also have a Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ThinkHeroFans. Make sure you like that page and share our video on Twitter and Facebook and all that other stuff.